I was recently reading Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins, and I came across the $70 million UPS employee story. This is a very inspiring story. To go from no more than $14,000 per year to $70 million in net worth through investing. This is life-changing. I believe Tony Robbins is a much better storyteller than I am. So I will let him tell you this story. But then, I will tell you what Tony Robbins won't tell you. And if you stay till the end, you will get some very valuable lessons that I learned from this story.
I'll give you an example, a guy named Theodore Johnson. You probably never heard of him. Worked for UPS, never made more than $14,000 in an entire year of his life, and yet when he retired, he had $70 million and he didn't inherit a dime. So how do you do that? A friend of his said, you've got to stop being a consumer and you've got to become an owner. You've got to become an investor. And he said, I have no money to invest. I make $14,000 a year. And his friend said, no one has money to invest. But if the government came by and put a 20% tax above what you're paying now, you would scream, you'd yell, and you'd pay it. You'd adjust. I'm going to make you a wealthy man. He took the 20% off the top, never let him see it, put it straight in the investment account. It was worth $70 million, compounding by the time he was in retirement.
Okay. So here's what Tony Robbins won't tell you. He won't tell you about the $14,000 illusion. Mr. Johnson's $14,000 salary would be about $150,000 in today's money. If we pay close attention, he retired in 1952 and he reached that $14,000 salary right before he retired. So in today's money, his 20% investment tax on his income would be about $30,000 in yearly savings. The second thing that Tony Robbins won't tell you is that by the time Mr. Johnson retired, he had about $700,000 in UPS stock. Although Mr. Johnson earned about $14,000 per year, and by the time he retired, he had about $700,000 in UPS stock. But here's the thing, in today's money, that's about $7 million. Things are starting to get interesting, right? And here's one last thing that Tony Robbins won't tell you. Mr. Johnson did not invest in an index fund, nor in a mutual fund. Mr. Johnson concentrated his investments in one company that he knew best, the one that he worked for his entire life. His bet was big and bold, and it really paid off. He did something that Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger did, and something that other business owners or those who understand business very well do. He used the power of concentration to build his wealth. He did not diversify. Even though you might hate me for spoiling the story, here are two very important lessons that I learned from this. The first one, inflation is going to eat you alive if you stay in cash. This was a very important lesson for me. Why? Because most of my 20s, I've been sitting in cash and I regret it a lot. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in unrealized gains because my money was in cash, but I also lost about half of my purchasing power because I was saving my money in the local currency and it valued a lot, like crazy, against the dollar and the euro. This is why Ray Dalio and other investment titans are screaming from the mountaintop,
cash is trash.
And why most of our money should be in assets. Why in assets? Because over time assets appreciate in value, and as a result, they protect your wealth. Now mind you, it is not a straight line upwards. It has ups and downs like everything else. But over the long term, it is a straight line going up. Staying in cash should be temporary, for opportunities only. We should not be staying in cash for long periods of time. The second lesson that I learned is that diversification is optional if, and the if part is extremely important. Here's the rule. Diversification is the way to go for 95% of people. Here's the exception. Those who are starting individual companies and are able to understand them can break the rule. These are the investors who are spending either their free time or their working time studying individual companies, reading annual reports, learning accounting, listening to conference calls, and so forth. These are the 5% of people who are allowed to break the diversification rule. Here are Buffett's words on concentration. Many fortunes were made by owning a single wonderful business. If you understand the business, you don't need to own very many of them, just like Mr. Johnson. So for this lesson, the most important thing is this. Be honest with yourself. Are you in the 95% or in the 5%? Here's my answer to this question. Because I am working about 60 hours per week and right now have little time to study individual businesses, I am in the 95%. So what should I do? I should diversify in a low-cost index fund like the S&P 500. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, you might also like this other video that I made. And until next time, take care, have a wonderful day. Peace.